Welcome into the Bro 4 Squad podcast, where if our 16-year-old daughters went missing, we'd probably just say, meh. I am your host, Jeff Hornacek. Joining me tonight is our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli, to review the 2018 cyber thriller, is that a genre? Searching, starring John Cho and Deborah Messing. Cycli, wow.
Can I just say really fast, as your lawyer, if your 16-year-old daughter goes missing and the cops come, don't go, meh. Just as just a little piece of advice.
Okay. Well, do I have to pay you for that, or is that free?
Yeah, that was like $500. It was really. I spent 3 years to learn that.
God damn it. This is costly. If you have not listened to one of our reviews before, thanks for checking us out. And we grade all of our movies on the 5 Bro 4 Squad criteria: the acting, the story, our favorite scene, any impact, and rewatchability. Now, this movie is one we cannot talk about without getting into heavy spoilers. So we're going to give you our take on the acting and the story first, and then Cycli and I are just going to dive right into it and absolutely ruin everything in the movie. So if you have not seen it, we will tell you before we jump into the spoilers portion. Pause it, go to your local theater, see it, and then come back. I literally don't want anything to take place in your life between the steps that I just mentioned. So, Cycli, diving right in, the acting in this movie. Again, it was a little weird because of the way that this genre is set up, like the narrative and the way it's filmed. Actors are typically not together in the same room because it's all done through computer screens and phones. But what did you think of what they gave us in terms of performances?
Yeah, I think it's a little hard to judge because of exactly what you just said. I'm not sure yet how I feel about this type of filmmaking, specifically because it makes me kind of feel further away from the actors than in a normal setting. Now,
Sure.
what they were given to us, I felt like Halpern they did a good job overall. I thought it seemed a little corny at some points, but again, it goes back to the way it was filmed. And, they sold it to me. I never was kind of in an air of disbelief, but I still feel like if it was filmed in the traditional sense, I would have bought it more. I would have been more, invested in the emotional sense of the father's going through. Whereas I felt like I was literally watching it through a computer screen instead of like feeling his pain.
There is like a weird, all the performances in it, you do sort of feel detached from them. I think more than you almost feel like you're watching them through like a storefront window as opposed to like in the movie with them. It doesn't affect the tension, but it was a little unique in terms of the performances. And the other weird thing about these performances is John Cho and Deborah Messing going very against type, right? When I think John Cho, I think we all think Harold and Kumar, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then Deborah Messing, of course, Will and Grace. So I don't think there is a single part of this movie that plays for laughs. Correct me if I'm wrong or if you remember one, but
no, not at all. I just got Harold and Kumar mixed up in his actual name. But yeah, no, I didn't get any of that. There was no break in all honesty.
So there's not even an attempt at any levity in this movie, and that part works, but John Cho and Deborah Messing, I think John Cho was better in this movie than Deborah Messing was as Detective Vic, but it was interesting to see both of them play against type. And it did work for me, but it's not like John Cho's next dramatic role. I'm going to be breaking the bank and making sure that I'm at the theater opening night to see it.
Yeah, it's not like he was stretched out. I mean, I was more impressed with him in overall. I felt like she was the one. I felt like she kind of had the role and just kind of read the lines more so. I mean, she did a good job, but I didn't feel like she stretched herself. Like, he probably took advantage of it more because he finally had a more serious role for once.
Yeah.
And you could see that reflected a little bit. And but yeah, again, I just think this type of filming unfortunately takes away from the actors.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, on to the story. Now, we can't get into this too much without spoiling it, but the synopsis basically is that a 16-year-old girl who's John Cho's daughter goes missing, and he's basically a desperate father who breaks into her laptop to look for clues to find her. So I guess, Cycli, the main thing I'll ask is, does this type of storytelling for this type of story work for you? Because we've seen the Unfriended movies come out like this. There's a few other types of films that are sort of told from the standpoint of like you're monitoring a desktop or a type of phone, and it involves a lot of creativity from a director, but it could fall flat if not done right. So what did you think of how that was executed?
Yeah, I thought this was a movie that, in spite of the way it was filmed, was very successful in the story. And I still had that moment, the first 20 minutes, I was still getting adjusted to the way the movie was going to be. I was wondering whether the entire film was going to be filmed in that manner. kind of the same effect the movie Unsane had to me. Now, it wasn't taking place in front of a computer screen, but it was filmed with an iPhone. So it
Right.
had the same kind of like claustrophobic, you know, feeling that you had when you were watching. I feel like with a semi-weaker story, it wouldn't be able to make up for that. And you have to be careful. I didn't see Unfriended, but I did hear that Unfriended wasn't good enough to warrant that type of thing. So that's just, again, that's just something I read online, not my opinion. I felt like this one was able to surpass that level of filming and the suspense, the writing. We're going to get into this, and a lot of the Easter eggs in the movie were phenomenal.
Yeah, the only thing I'll really say is the way that this movie is shot and filmed, like from the perspective of either a phone screen or a computer. I thought they actually did a really good job of pushing a narrative forward. I think the Unfriended movies, and again, I haven't seen them, but this is what I've read, that they basically take place in one sitting, like one Skype call. This movie, that is not the case. Like, there is a timeline of events that takes place not just in one sitting, which could be very difficult to not only transition from scene to scene, but help convey the passage of time without beating you over the fucking head. Like, here's the date. It's like 3 days later. And I thought that they somehow built suspense, even though I was just watching a computer screen.
I think you're right. I think there was a little bit, maybe more so in the beginning, but I felt it later, where I was kind of wondering how long things had been.
Right.
I wasn't sure whether she had been missing for 3 days or 3 hours at some parts. I felt like, you know, by the time he called the cops, I was like, did it take him a long time, or did he call the cops immediately? But it did kind of adjust itself, or maybe it was just me getting used to that style.
Yeah. And this will actually, sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, this will actually lead right into the spoilers for Best Scene, but there are some really creative ways that they're able to place a camera in a place to film the actors or the characters present. And so I'll just start us off. So spoilers. If you've not seen Searching yet, you need to go out and fucking see it and come back and listen to the rest of the review, because we're going to ruin the end for it. So if you don't care, if you're interested, here we go. My favorite scene is when David basically confronts his brother Peter with the hidden cameras in his apartment because he thinks that he is having some sexual relationship with Margot. And I thought that was
you feel right before that.
Well, you actually brought this up. There is a scene in the kitchen where David places the camera there, where Peter looks pretty much directly in the camera, and as the audience, you're like, oh my God, does he know he's being filmed? Like, is this a setup for David? And you and I kept commenting, don't drink whatever the fucking tea is that Peter gave you. It all ended up being red herrings, which this movie's great at.
Mention of the tea, I was like, all right, there's something in that thing.
Yeah, he's like, how's your tea? I was like, why you keep fucking asking, bro? It's Lipton green tea. It's fine. Did you have sex with my daughter?
Did you at that point, like, that was a great scene, and probably one of the two of I was going to say, did you believe that the brother was in on it? Or, you know, was it, you know, they were trying to tell us the brother was having a sexual affair with his niece. I mean, what was your mind going?
I did. I actually did think that there was something going on with the brother and Margot, like out of the ordinary. I didn't think he was the killer just because I thought he was too weird of a character. And it was almost, at first I thought it was a little too early in the movie to reveal him as that. But I definitely did not just think he was selling her pot. What did you think?
Yeah, you know, we talked about this off air. You know, if let's just say, you know, I have a couple nieces and they're obviously young, but like, you know, if you're ever that uncle, that they come to talk to you freely with their problems that they can't talk to their parents about, and let's just say, you know, you're okay with giving them weed as an option to relieve stress or something like that, and something of that nature happened to one of my nieces, you know, the first thing I would do is give away information. You know, hiding that secret, I understand why he's like, she trusted me with the secret and she was scared of you finding out. I get that, but if someone's life is on the line,
yeah, dude,
you love your niece, you love your family, and you're truly not doing anything wrong, the longer you hide it, the more suspicious you look. And two, if you really want to find her, you give up all of your information. Right. So that's why I did feel like maybe he is, you know, a bad guy. But like you said, you just said this, it was also early on in the movie. And so you knew there was going to be more to it.
Yeah, the second Margot goes fucking missing, we can't have any more secrets about her. Like,
no, exactly.
That's just
you tell everything. My favorite scene was probably, you know, we talked about this again. I mentioned this right before the spoilers. The Easter eggs. So the scene where I remember watching the movie and thinking something was odd about when David Kim, the dad's name, went to the lake. He found some information on her phone and her computer, and he went to the lake. And what does he find? I can't. Oh my gosh,
The
I just
per
forgot.
Pokemon keychain.
Yes,
Yeah.
he finds a Pokemon keychain, exactly.
Pokemon.
And immediately calls the detective, and she answers the phone in such a manner that I remember thinking it was odd. She jumps out of bed. It's like 3 a.m. and she's sprinting out the house, and it was really tense. And you're being told like, oh wow, she's that invested in this. And then at the end of the movie, you realize that she was not doing it out of concern for the daughter. She was freaking out that her crime scene was going to be found, and she says, have you called the cops yet? And as an audience, we're saying, oh, she's just asking whether she needs to put the call in or not.
Right.
But she's really asking to know if she's been had or not. I mean, it was really well done and something you don't even realize what you're seeing until 30 minutes later. And so thinking at the time, it wasn't my favorite scene, but looking back, that definitely was a big tell and something I enjoyed.
And another thing, like not to dwell on that scene for too long, but there's kind of a nice little nod from the director because when she's walking out, I can't remember the name of her son, the one who obviously pushed Mark down there, but he kind of opens the door behind her. Like obviously he has a vested interest in if they fucking find Marco at the lake.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, stay in your room. And at first you're like, God, her son's so fucking annoying. But then you're like, well, he's actually the murderer. Or the attempted murderer. So yeah, he probably shouldn't go.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Any just impact or general thoughts? I'll just open it up real quick. I had 3 questions, quick ones I wanted to run by you, but was there anything that you just need to get off your chest before we get into these couple queries that I had?
No, I want to hear your queries, so I won't say anything yet. Especially if it's going to talk about the film structure, because I want to get more into that. But also just have to respect the Easter eggs. I mean, there was a lot of this, and you and I talked afterwards, things we didn't even realize. The school's mascot was the catfish.
Which is insane.
Pay attention. And then the fish and chips character, the son, obviously, when the dad is on her Ucast doing her video pod or whatever, he logs in, the fish and chips, and immediately logs off after seeing it was the dad on the video and not Margot.
Right.
That's the kid being like, holy shit, she's alive, and she's about to do a video blog. And
right,
then
and out.
Sees that her dad and freaks out and logs off. And again, it's something you just don't think about when you're watching. There's a lot of respect in the clues they gave us the whole time.
So that will lead me just into my first question. The biggest part of the movie, when he is broadcasting the vigil for Margot and signs off, and the reveal that the picture in Fish and Chips bio is the same model who is modeling for the broadcasting company for the vigil. What was your reaction? What was your theater's reaction? Because mine was basically an audible gasp.
Yeah, ours was too, because I think the look of that stock model was just so obvious, and you could go ahead.
She was like kind of creepy in like an everyday person kind of way too.
I think they made it good enough to they found someone unique enough who stands out but at the same time doesn't, because you immediately realized that was the same face. You didn't forget what that girl looked like an hour ago,
right?
Or 45 minutes ago, the last time we saw the fish and chips, image. But yeah, our whole audience, you could feel like everyone kind of stood up in their seat a little bit. Everyone kind of had the same oh shit, that's not her. And then I made me think, honestly, I would never want to be a stock photo model. Your face gets put on everything, all these catfishes and random, you don't know who's putting your face on what. And it's just, I cracked up because he calls the model and she has no idea what he's talking about.
Right. I mean, that's why I quit the modeling game. Granted, I was a hand model. We're a different beast, as they say in Zoolander, but I totally agree. But yeah, that was a great, I go to the movies and films like this to feel tension like that. All right, a few quick ones. When the convict died, who Detective Kim frames for the murder of Margot, did you take that scene at face value when it happened? It was kind of towards the end where you're thinking things can wrap up, but we know there's some sort of twist, or we were expecting it. So what was your initial thought when his confession tape was shown to us?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought it was late enough that this was it, but I thought it was going to be, he murdered her, but he found her in a different situation. He wasn't the cause of what she went missing. Because I knew there was going to be some decent reveal. With the way that structure is filmed, they're not just going to give us a traditional ending because it was shot traditionally. They're not going to just fill out the normal way of filming. So I believed he did it. but not the effect of, he wasn't the reason she went missing in the first place. I was expecting something bigger there. What about you?
Right. The only really thing that I thought was I didn't think he did it. I thought he was just someone on the internet or like a person who was mentally ill taking credit for the crime. I was not suspecting Kim, or excuse me, I keep calling her Detective Kim, Detective Vic. I was not expecting Detective Vic at that point at all. Then obviously they show the photo of her next to him at a construction site, which if you're ever going to use a person to frame them for a crime, make sure that there isn't a Google image result of you next to them, like on the front page. That's just not a good way to hide. But I didn't suspect her at all. I just thought he was a crazy person who was mentally ill and was going to claim credit for it.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to say, and then obviously anything else you have before we go into it, whether we would recommend the movie, is to me, one of the most harrowing parts of this film isn't even the tension built up. It's not even when they find that Margot's alive. It's not the twist reveal with Detective Vic. It's the way that people who knew Margot or knew of her or were close to her, at least in proximity, tried to capitalize and exploit her situation on social media. Her friends at school making videos crying, pretending they were close with her when they really weren't. That kid who was like being interviewed on the news and you could tell just fucking loved the cameras in his face. That stuff to me felt so real that it was like creepy in a totally different way.
Yeah, I can 100%. That was one of the best things, like reflected, because that happens everywhere. And you and I went to high school at the age where Facebook was in infancy. It was just starting, but it was only for college kids. But that was still having. I remember we had a big high school, so there was always like that one random death a year. And you would hear about people who acted like they were friends with someone just for the attention. And that's real. And then, not that that's a funny subject, but I always think back to American Vandal season 1. Alex Trimboli, if you haven't seen it, I go recommend it. But if you have seen it, Alex Trimboli is the guy who turned Dylan in. And he was a notorious liar, and he had his Facebook status about how much he loved this guy who died at school. And there's like comments underneath his status like,
you didn't even know him.
Like,
yeah,
that made me think of that. Like, but that's real. Like that's something I think you hear in everything, not just in high school. I think that's a human emotion. People do that for attention at all ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, and sadly, that is one of the downsides of the social media age. All right, last category. I know we've been running long here, but there's a lot to unpack with this one. Is rewatchability, or would you recommend this movie to someone to go see?
I'll recommend it. I would. I would just also preface it that it's not film. I wouldn't tell them exactly how it's filmed, maybe, but I would just tell them it's not traditional. So like that way, they're not in a position where 20 minutes into the movie they keep thinking about how it's filmed, because that takes away from the experience. So I think I would give them a little warning. I would probably watch it again one more time just to see if there were more hints, because they did so many after I read about it. But I did enjoy it a lot, and I thought it was well written. Oh, I just thought of one more really quickly Easter egg. There was at the very beginning of the movie, there was a like news clip about a hiker who survived for 9 days.
No way.
Yeah. And it's
God,
a very
totally
quick little thing they say. And my wife actually like taps my shoulder at the end of the movie, and she goes, "She's alive." There was the hiker who survived for 9 days.
Wow, she is much more perceptive than me.
Well, yeah, and so that was another one. Like, so I want to watch it again to see what else we missed.
Yeah, that's probably worth a rewatch for me in and of itself. Just a few of the Easter eggs. I would definitely recommend it to someone. I think this has sort of a similar caveat you need to provide to like the first Cloverfield, where it's kind of shaky cam. If you can't really get through that, then despite how good the narrative is and some of the twists and turns, you won't be able to appreciate it. Same thing with this. If the framing device of being told through computer and phone screens is off-putting to you, I get it, but the movie's not going to resonate at all. And so I would say put a little asterisk by my recommendation to, if you can't buy into this, then it's just not going to work. And that's fine, because it's a fairly new and inventive way of telling a story, and it's just not going to resonate with everybody.
Yeah, and I hope they don't go overboard with this type of way. It only works in a specific type of movie, and this was one of them. For every one you have like this, you're going to have 10 others that don't succeed. So I just don't want it to be a thing like we see all the time now.
It's like the Baha Men's music. We're fine with Who Let the Dogs Out. We don't need another fucking album.
What are you talking? I've listened to all 10 of their albums.
Agree to disagree. All right, on that note, for our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli, I am the mayor, Jeff Hornacek, and we have been the Broforce Squad. Thank you guys for checking us out. Please comment below with your thoughts. Subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube, and Spotify. Broforce Squad, 3 words. Give us a follow on Twitter at Broforce Squad to let us know your thoughts and theories on the movie, and check out everything that we are doing and our squad blog over on our website, broforcesquad.com. Till next time, we'll see you later. Cycli, I FaceTimed you 3 times at 4 a.m. and you didn't answer. What if I was being chased through the woods?
I was actually hoping you were, so that's why I didn't answer. I wanted the worst thing to happen.
Something like this, right?
I wish you had said Chumbawamba song, because I would have said what Marshall said.
Ah, damn it. Which Chumbawamba?